Hello everyone, welcome to the series. Please like and subscribe. Also check out the story in the description. With that, let's begin. Chapter 10, Classroom Changes and Sports Festival Preparation. Third POV. The incident happened on Friday, so the three boys had the entire weekend to spend hanging out or training. They all went to a gym that offered Parker lessons for a cheap price and started to do them. They wanted to increase their skills the best they could and didn't want to waste any chance. Also, training together was fun for the three boys since it offered them someone to talk to and goof around with. As such, the weekend went by quickly and it was now time for them to go back to school. They all wondered what would happen to their class now. There are only 3 of them total, and that was hard for them to do any pieces of training since they had odd numbers. All 3 of them were sitting in the classroom. It was weird only having 3 of them with so many desks in the room. After about 10 minutes with their teacher being 5 minutes later, Aizawa-sensei walks into the room. As you all know, you 3 are the last remaining for the entire first year, Aizawa-sensei stated. They knew this quite well. As such, we need to decide what to do with you 3, Aizawa stated. This made them tense. Were they going to get rid of them as well? They all thought. Lloyd asked the question on their mind. Sir, are you guys getting rid of us as well? He asked, and Izuku could hear the nervousness in the voice. Aizawa just replied no. We need to go have a long discussion with the principal and figure stuff out. As such, follow me to a meeting room where he is waiting for us, Aizawa stated as he went out the door. They left their things and followed along. They soon arrived at the meeting room and found Principal Nezu waiting with documents and a computer. Hello, boys. Thank you for arriving, Nezu stated. All of them sat down and took the tea that Nezu offered. Now, down to business, Nezu stated. We need to decide what is going to happen moving forward. I need to be blunt in the fact that we've never had something like this happen. UA has had the worst batch of students this year. That is why it was dropped to 1 hero course only instead of 2. We needed to remove everyone else but you 3 who were the top scorers in the entrance exam and written text. Then we also had the problem with the previous 6 that tried an attempt on your life, which left just you 3. Nezu stated. Nezu then sipped some tea and took a second. As it stands, you 3 have the potential to be heroes and we will be happy to teach you. The issue is your class size as I stated earlier, Nezu said. At this point, Aizawa started to speak instead of Nezu. Even when classes were limited in the past, they never have been this small. Ever, Aizawa stated. The smallest class size we have had before now was 12 students. However, that went out the window quickly and now we are faced with a class size of 3. Aizawa started. Looking tired of this entire mess, they explained that they needed to ask questions to get a good grasp of how to move forward. These questions will give us a look at your current education and your current training and how much free time you have. We would like to specialize in what the classes you 3 will take together to fit you guys more, Nezu stated. Soon they started to ask random seeming questions, though one did cause some heads to turn at Izuku when he answered. This question was about all the training they currently do. Lloyd and Salazar talked about how they do some weight training out of school, and they recently picked up Parker at a location nearby. Then it was Izuku's turn to explain his. However, before he could answer, Nezu just started. He does weight training 4 days a week, does cardio training every day, does Parker with these 2 boys, does quirk training outside of school at a private location, and has a meal plan and made to suit him, Nezu stated. Aizawa asked how he knew that, and Nezu said that Izuku's trainers are close friends of his that keep him up to date on his work. I also provide them access to UA files for anything regarding him. You will meet them likely by the end of the year. The 2 boys likely will meet them sooner than you by my guess, Nezu stated. They then talked about education level. Mine was mostly self-study. Due to me being quirkless, teachers didn't treat me well and tried to harm my education, Izuku said. Nezu knew about the case since he helped on it. I know the details since I was involved in the criminal case against your former schools, Nezu stated. Izuku was a bit nervous talking about it since he didn't want to remember the pain from that. They got a decent idea of where everyone was sitting in their education level and Nezu gave them all a test to see for sure. About 1 hour later they all finished the test. Nezu quickly graded the tests, and they found out that they all passed their first year of education for high school. Congratulations on passing your finals test for your first year, Nezu stated with a smirk. The boys were shocked. They had just been given the first year final test. This means we can specialize your classes even more and ensure you are being challenged in your learning. This has given me a good idea of how to start your classes from now on, Nezu stated. Nezu and Aizawa talked for a bit and dismissed the boys to go eat. We will have an updated schedule by the time you're done eating lunch, Nezu stated with a cheer. The boys went and grabbed lunch and ate under a tree outside. I didn't think our day would go like this, Izuku said as he just laid his head against the tree and groaned. The 2 others just groaned as well. They got tricked into taking their final exams without even knowing about it. What if we failed the test? Then what would he have done? Lloyd stated. Soon the lunch came to an end and they arrived back in their classroom, or what they thought was their classroom. The classroom was now different. Instead of all the desks, they had a large table with their chairs located at it. The walls had bookshelves lined up and filled with all different types of books that they might need. There was a display case in the back with their uniforms that required a keycard to open it. There were also laptops next to the display case on a charging station. On the floor between the table and the case were bean bags and some comfortable looks chairs. There was a teacher's desk in the front left corner for Eraserhead, and then a small cot for him to sleep on. They all laughed at that. Izuku was standing next to the bean bag when Lloyd dropped onto the bag and pulled Izuku down onto it with him. Salazar just fell down onto them both as well and smashed Izuku in between them. Izuku just groaned in pain from being pressed between them. "Going to push my guts out is what you two are going to do," Izuku said. Soon the door opened and there stood Nezu with Aizawa-sensei. "I see you're enjoying the new classroom. This room will be your home for the next 3 years, so I suggest taking care of it. There is also a small fridge in the back corner if you didn't notice, for you to store meals from home or drinks. Just be responsible with what you bring in and clean up after yourself," Nezu stated. They then each received a custom schedule for their first year. The schedule was as followed. Period 1, homeroom. Period 2, basic education classes. Lunch. Period 3, specialized education classes. Period 4, heroics 101. The homeroom was an hour and they could do what they wish in it as long as Aizawa didn't have anything. The basic education class took the rest of the morning and would be teaching them their second year classes during their first year and into their second year if they didn't finish everything. It would go on whatever pace they could handle. The third period was going to be classes that each of them specialize in. For example, Izuku would be learning coding to encrypt his notebooks and learning from Nezu sometimes to make them better. The other two boys would learn things that they would specialize in as well. The last period was all of their remaining day, which was about 3 hours. This class was going to be physical class, support department when they needed it, hero law, and a blend of other things as the school sees fit. Overall, the schedule was more streamlined and flexible to fit the three of them and keep them pushing forward to advance at whatever pace they could handle. Then Nezu talked about the sports festival. "Since there are only 3 of you in the hero class anymore, we are doubtful anyone will have enough skills and ability to impress us enough to get into the class," Nezu stated, and then said that the festival would be in 2 weeks, and they could train as they saw fit for it. They were told to sit down and class started. A part of their advanced schedule was the fact that they would be given all homework for the entire week on Friday and it would be due on the next Friday. As such, they sat down and got to work doing their homework. The boys worked together to do the homework. The rules only said that they couldn't share answers, so they didn't. They just helped each other with things they got stuck on and finished the work whenever they did. Aizawa just sat on the cot and slept while listening to them a bit. Soon the day ended and the boys all went to the gym and started to train. Izuku was debating on asking All Might about revealing their relationship to his friends, but that was a question for later. He wanted to trust them with it since it looked like they would be friends for a long time. As he was thinking of this, they started to train. The boys were working on their own individual skills, but also some teamwork abilities since they believed there would be a teamwork round. Izuku was also training with Gran and All Might on getting his landing right with other people and carrying others while in the air. They made him carry them both and practice his power while floating and landing. As such, Izuku was getting better at it over the 2 weeks that were given for the training. Izuku knew his friends were also doing really well in their own training, and they were all itching to fight each other in the ring during the sports festival. They did have some spars during the training, but they all held back by a lot since they wanted to hide some of their skills and give surprises in the tournament. Their educational classes were coming along as well. Izuku was a bit scared of his first lesson with Nezu. His friends gave him a look of pity and he didn't know why. Izuku entered the office and the lesson started. He soon figured out why they gave him a look of pity. Nezu was a slave driver in the speed he went and the hard material he gave. However, Izuku enjoyed it even though it was hard. He's never felt this challenged by his teachers before and he loved the feeling of it. Principal Nezu, I can't wait for our future lessons. I've never been this challenged by my past teachers before and it's enjoyable, Izuku stated, and this caused Nezu to have an evil grin on his face. Izuku felt a cold chill go down his spine after that smile and wondered if he just signed his own death warrant. Izuku told his friends how the lesson went and they were shocked that he enjoyed it but could understand the problem of never being challenged by a teacher. They soon went their separate ways for the day since there were only a few days left until the festival. And they wanted to train individually and in private. Izuku has been working hard and he's also discovered that he can now push One for All to 18% from his previous 15%. This made him so happy. Even though it was only 3% in an increase, it was still an increase no matter what. Izuku has also gotten better at his control of float, but it still wasn't the best by itself. It was getting there, but it would take more time to be at a good level to use just by itself without one for all supporting. Izuku's fighting style has also gotten better since Aizawa had started to teach them quirkless combat, since that is what he relied on so much. He told them that quirks can't be used 100% of the time, so they needed to be prepared to fight quirkless if it came to it. He also suggested to them to have some weapons or support gear that they could use to attack or defend with. As such, most of them had small knives attached to their outfits, as Aizawa did. He admitted he hardly ever uses it, but it has saved his life a few times, which had made it worth carrying it around with him all the time. Soon it was time for the sports festival, and they were all ready to announce to the world that they were here. Chapter 11, Sports Festival, 3rd POV. Izuku and the 2 other boys were sitting in the waiting room. They were about to go out on stage and declared that they were here to the world. They were also about to go out there as the sole students of 1A. That fact made them nervous since their school reputation was relying on them. UA was the school that produced amazing heroes every single year. If they did horrible, then it would look bad on the school since they were the only hero students. Aizawa had come down and told them not to worry so much about that fact and just do the best they could. Hey, guys, when we get internship offers, do you want to do them together if we all get the same place that invites us? Izuku asked them out of the blue. They were shocked at the request but agreed to it. They always did have good teamwork and wanted to expand on it. After about 5 more minutes of waiting in the waiting room, they heard Present Mike go over the sound system and started to call everyone out. They then called our Class 1A. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome UAS Seoul First Year Hero Class 1A. Please also note, yes, there are only 3 students this year. We only want those that we believe are plus ultra, and they have shown it through their determination and will. Mike yelled out. The crowd cheered for them, and many found it amazing that only 3 people were in 1A. That had to mean they were very strong students in their own right. Soon all the course students were standing on the stage. Snipe walked up to the microphone since he wanted to do it this year. Welcome everyone. This year the year representative is Izuku Midoriya, the number 1 in both the written exam and the hero course entrance exam, stated Snipe. Izuku walked up to the microphone and took a second. He then started to talk. Welcome and thank you for coming today. As you notice, there isn't another hero course. There aren't other students except me and my 2 friends in 1A. We survived the entrance exam. We survived the purge of 1A when others got expelled for their poor attitude towards heroics. We will continue to keep pushing forward since we aim to light the flame of hope into those that we will go on to protect. We are all heroes even if we belong to the other courses like the support department. Without these people, the heroes today couldn't do their job. If we all remember All Might from his early career, he himself used support gear on his outfit to help him do better. Everyone needs support from someone else. It's our goal of UA to go on and be the support for our society. As such, let us go beyond plus ultra, Izuku said as he shouted the last part. Everyone in the crowd started to cheer out and said plus ultra as well. The staff in the staff box was thrilled with Izuku's speech. It addressed the issue of them being the last members of the hero course but also aimed to bring unity between the courses. They were happy with the speech and it seemed well received amongst the other students. Soon Snipe called everyone's attention again. Now let us look forward and see what the first event will be. Snipe called out. Soon the round was selected and it turned out that the event will be a King of the Hill match. There would be 42 pillars created that you needed to maintain hold of. The pillars also varied in height as well, from the lowest being the 42nd one and the tallest being the first place one. Cementos came out and created the pillars. The round was started and everyone went off. Izuku just grabbed his 2 friends and dropped them off on the 3rd and 2nd pillar while he floated to the first one. Well, look at that. 1A is helping each other out even though it's a solo match, Mike said, but Aizawa came over and said it was smart, since there is no rule against it. Villains won't play fair, so why should heroes play fair 24/7? If there is no rule stopping them from doing it, then I think my students to go ahead and do it. They need to survive and live to protect more people in the future, Aizawa said, which made everyone cheer for the 1A students. They all watched as students were trying to go up for each higher position. Some that had lower numbers attempted to fight for a higher one. Some were able to do it while others got knocked down and failed. Some tried to go for Izuku, but he just used blasts of air from his punches and knocked them back. Lloyd and Salazar were able to go through their opponents with relative ease. Lyot got a few blades from Salazar to help defend himself. Lloyd just threw blunt blades at some people but kept a long sword to fight most people that tried to get to him. Most people got scared off from him due to the blades that he wielded. Lloyd just used his feeling manipulation to make people fear him. He induced the feeling of overwhelming fear into those that got close to his pillar, and it kept most everyone away from his pillar. The few that did brave through the fear just got kicked down from his pillar when they came up, since he switched from fear to overwhelming tiredness. Then Lloyd used the knife to scare them and kick them. This kept going on for about 10 minutes until the round was called. The crowd went wild at the fact that the sole 3 hero course students held the top 3 spots. look at this. We have our top 42 members, and the sole first-year hero students were the ones that held the top the entire time. Let us see if they can hold the top in the next round. Mike yelled out. Snipe walked back up and had anyone not on a pillar exit the stage. Then the pillars were brought down and the 42 members stood in front of the stadium. Good job, you 42 members. Now, let us see what round we will have for our next match, Snipe said. And a screen appeared on one portion of the stadium and many different rounds went across the screen. Soon it slowed down and came to a stop on a cavalry battle. Izuku, Lloyd, and Salazar were happy at that. They had trained in hopes that this would happen since they observed from the news that the cavalry battle happened every 2 or 3 years on average. Everyone needs to split up into teams of 3 or 4 members. Once everyone has a team, we will start, Snipe yelled. The 3 boys just got together since they had trained for this. Oh, looks like the 3 members of WANA are sticking together. Are they planning to take it to the top all the way? But it's also risky. If they get eliminated in this round, then no one from the hero course makes it to the final round, Mike stated. All eyes were now on the 3 boys. Everyone in the stadium was looking at them with eyes that looked like they were looking at a burger and they haven't eaten for weeks. Damn it, present Mike. Just have to stir the pot, Izuku thought. The round started and Izuku just used his air blast to keep people away since his points were worth 1 million points. Everyone wanted it. Then Lloyd turned up his quirk and made anyone in a radius feel fear. It's one of the things he has been training. The ability to make a wide range of people feel the same emotion at the same time. He could do it if someone was really close, but now he could make it spread across the entire field, but it was a weaker feeling, unlike if he focused it onto one person. Everyone recoiled in fear. Some pushed past it by sheer willpower. But they were nervous. Salazar used his knives and made them dull when he created them and just started throwing them at enemies that were getting close. Some just dodged the knives and pushed forward. For those that got close, Izuku just used air blasts onto them and forced them away, but there was some trouble with some teams that just grabbed into the ground and held on. They kept pushing forward. As they got closer and closer, Mike was making everyone excited at the fight. Sorry, Mike. Got a trick up my sleeve, Izuku thought as the other team got closer. Now, Izuku yelled, and the 2 friends held onto him since he was the rider. Then Izuku started to float into the air, and he used the air blast to move the entire team to the other side of the ring. Everyone was stunned since they just saw him fly with the entire team. What is this? When could he fly? Mike yelled, asking the question for everyone. He could always fly. It's a newer aspect he learned a few months before UA, so he doesn't have the best control. But he is getting the aspect of his quirk down quick, Aizawa stated to stop any confusion. Soon the round kept going and their team had grabbed quite a few other headbands from teams they had attacked. The round slowly came to an end and the round was called. They did it once again. WANA has taken the top spots once again. Will WANA Hero Course students take all 3 top spots in the final round and hold on to their streak? Mike yelled. A 40-minute break was called and everyone was told to come back after lunch. The boys just hurried up and went and grabbed food before they sat down to eat. There are only 12 people left for the final round since all top 4 teams only had 3 people each. After talking a bit more and relaxing, the lunch break came to an end. The next round was announced as the traditional 1vs1 tournament. The brackets were made and the first 2 people were called down to the stage. There would be 6 initial rounds and then it would go down to 3 next rounds. After that, the final 3 people would have a 3-way match to decide the final 3 winners. The first 2 people were called out to the field. One had a quirk that allowed them to grow small vines out of the ground and attack people with it. The other person had a quirk that allowed them to control air and send it out in blasts. This fight lasted about 5 minutes before it came to an end. The one with the vines was able to get them close enough to tie the person up. The problem with the person's quirk is that the vines move so slowly. As such, it's hard to be used in combat unless they decided to get creative. The second match, fighters were called out to the ring. This time the fighter had a quirk that could send blasts of compressed air out and the other person was Lloyd. The match started out with them both charging each other, but as they got closer to each other, Izuku noticed the other student start to get sluggish. The student still pushed on though as Lloyd went down low and swiped the student's feet from under him. The student got up quickly and attacked again. Lloyd had worked on his speed quite a bit and was able to dodge most of the attacks. He did take a few blows but overpowered the person soon after. He switched the feeling of sluggish to the feeling of being weak. This threw the person for a few seconds, in which Lloyd pushed forward and knocked the person down to the ground. He then pinned the student to the ground and held his neck in a chokehold. After about 30 seconds, the person started to tap on the ground and Snipe called the match. Winner Lloyd, he called. The crowd cheered. The student didn't even get to use his quirk at all in the fight. The third match was Salazar and a student with a quirk that allowed him to cause shockwaves when he punches something. It sends vibrations through the person or object, and he can control how much it vibrates. Salazar threw blades from a distance and kept the person from hitting him or getting close. The person then punched the ground and made it shake, which felt like an earthquake was going on. This forced Salazar to charge forward and engage in close combat. He threw several blades as he charged to stop the person from making more shockwaves. He kept this up to keep the person moving, and then he got up within a handful of feet and put the blade to the student's neck. Snipe called it. The student is unable to fight. In the real world, that would be a death blow. Winner Salazar. Snipe called out. Once again, the student from 101. Now it was Izuku's turn to fight. His opponent was someone with a shock absorption quirk. Izuku knew he couldn't win with direct punches since he didn't know the person's limit, and he couldn't risk going over it and landing a blow that would kill the guy. As such, Izuku started using his personal fighting style that he created by combing the movements of float and one for all. He danced around the student and didn't aim for large blows but aimed to keep him off his feet. He kept doing this and doing this. Izuku was aiming to annoy the student until they failed to pay attention anymore. Soon after about 5 minutes of doing this, the student got up and charged at Izuku. However, that is what he needed, as he had led the fight towards the edge. The moment the guy charged, Izuku stood still until a few feet in front of him, and then he jumped up and floated in the air. This causes the person to go right over the edge. Snipe called Izuku the winner as Aizawa came over to the sound system and explained his plan. Midoriya used the quirk of his opponent to his advantage. Midoriya's quirk provides him a strength aspect and a flying, float aspect. As such, Izuku's strikes would be negated, so he made his opponent so angry that they lost track of their own movement and had them go over the edge by their own power. Aizawa said as he explained it to the crowd, and they all cheered once they understood what he did during those 5 minutes. They all thought he was just toying with the kid, but now they knew he wasn't, but using his brain to win easier. The next 2 matches went quickly as they just slugged their way through the matches, and it wasn't really interesting, or they were support students that just wanted to advertise their creation. I feel like someone will replicate this years later, Izuku thought as he saw 2 support course students just showing off their devices in their round since they were fighting each other. This is how the first rounds came to an end. This resulted in 6 people being left, with 3 of them being from 1A. Izuku felt like Nezu rigged the matches so no one in 1A fought each other, but Izuku wasn't going to complain since he wanted them all to take the top 3 spots. Soon the next round started. One of the students that passed was the person with the vines. Salazar was fighting this person. Overall, it was an interesting match since he had to get close and personal to fight, though the vines were far too weak to hold up to his blades. He created thick but small blades that were sharp, and he just cut the vines apart as they came close. After about 3 minutes, he got up close and threw a blade into their shoulder that forced them to stop the vine quirk. He then got up close and pinned the person down and held a knife to the throat, ending the match. The next match was Lloyd versus the person from one of the final matches in the first round. This person's quirk allowed them to create weapons similar to Salazar, but they were throwing weapons. The problem with that is, Lloyd just made them feel like they were drunk or in a similar state. How does he know the feeling like that? Izuku thought. Lloyd won since the person couldn't aim anymore, and he just slugged him across the face, knocking him out since he was already sluggish and not in a good position to defend himself. Izuku asked him how he knew that feeling. He pushed onto the other person. He responded that the doctors gave him drugs when he was younger that wouldn't hurt him but make him feel like that. Izuku accepted the answer since that was smart of the doctors. Now it was time for Izuku's match. He had to fight one of the support course students. They just sent some of their gear, and Izuku just blew it up by smashing it into the ground. Izuku felt a bit of pity for the student when they dropped to the ground and wailed out about their gear being destroyed. "Sorry, please give up or I will destroy the rest of it," Izuku yelled, and they gave up within seconds. Now it was time for the last 3 people to fight. Listen up, folks. It's the last 3 fighters, and they all come from 1A. Give it up for these bright students," Mike cried out. Izuku knew they both would come after him. The moment the match was called to start, he was right as Salazar came charging with blades. Lloyd sent the feeling of being drunk. However, Izuku knew that he needed to concentrate on it for it to work. Izuku was able to dodge the blades as he jumped up and slammed a kick down on the ground, cracking it and causing it to shake hard enough for them to fall for a few seconds. Within those seconds, Izuku grabbed Salazar since he was nearby and tossed him at Lloyd. "Catch!" he yelled out, and Salazar landed right into Lloyd as they fell onto the ground. Izuku used that time to get closer before they could get up. Right as he got close, Lloyd caused him to feel the effects again, which made him stumble. Salazar came with a blade and nicked Izuku in the arm, causing some blood. Izuku had to back up. Both of the other 1A members are working together to take down Midoriya. Will he pull it off and take first place is the question, though, Mike said. Then Aizawa talked. Midoriya is far more powerful in raw strength than those 2 can hope to put out. As such, they are using strategy and teamwork to take him on. It's also why we made this a three-way instead of a single 1-versus-1 round and then another round for third place. We knew they needed a chance to win if he ended up in the last round. Aizawa stated, "Welp, Yue is conspiring against me," Izuku thought. Izuku then kicked the ground and made some rubble to break off. He picked it up the best he could under the effects of the quirk, and he had a hard time doing it since his coordination was off hard. Izuku then used the boulder he created by breaking the ground and threw it at them. He used float and went off flying behind the rubble he tossed since it blocked Lloyd from seeing him. Lloyd requires a visual of the person he is using the quirk on for it to work. He got close and then threw Lloyd off the ring. Everyone cheered, and then it was just Izuku and Salazar. They charged each other, and Izuku used OFA to increase his speed, and he grabbed the blades and pulled them away from his friend. The moment he did that, he headbutted his friend, which made Salazar stumble back. At that moment, using float and add OFA, Izuku glided in his movements and swiped the feet from under Salazar. Then he pinned him down to the ground. "We have our winner and we have our top 3. They are all from 1A. Mike yelled out. The crowd went wild. Izuku pulled both of his friends up onto the stage and held their hands up with his own. The crowd went even wilder as the display of sportsmanship. Izuku Midoriya had taken first place. Chapter 12, Requests, Secret, and Setting Off. Third POV. The sports festival had come to an end. The 3 boys had done it and secured the top 3 places of the sports festival. The medals were presented and the boys took them. They were dismissed to go back to the classroom and wait for Aizawa. After about 10 minutes of waiting, their teacher soon arrived back into the classroom. He stood at the front podium and looked at his students and then had a smirk on his face. "Good job, you 3. You did amazing and helped hold UA's name high with your performance. As you could guess, UA would have come under fire if you 3 did poorly, but our estimates are that the talk won't be about just the 3 Seoul students but 3 new rising students of 1A. As such, thank you for helping the school save face," Aizawa said. The boys just cheered at doing a good job to get a compliment out of their teacher. Now, they talked about many things, but the most important thing that they talked about was internships. "Now, you will come back on Monday and you be provided a list of internships that I've sent in requests for you 3. Due to the fact that there are only 3 of you, we expect you to gain high numbers since you did put on an amazing performance," Aizawa stated. They were happy and couldn't wait to return Monday to see their results. After a bit more talking, Aizawa dismissed them and allowed them to go home for the day. Izuku and they all went out and hanged out in the city since they wanted to relax. They even decided to go to a Kakapo bar and have some fun while singing. They kept going for a few hours before they decided to call it a night. Izuku decided to invite the 2 of them to meet his mother since he hasn't ever brought friends home since he has never had any. They agreed, and after about 30 minutes they found themselves in the Midwarrior residence. Inko was so happy to meet the friends of her son since no one has treated him well in the past. Soon they were all sitting down and eating dinner with each other. Inko had cooked more food than needed and sent some with them home and thanked them for coming. As it was just Inko and Izuku, she spoke. "Seems you have made really good friends, Izuku," Inko said as she looked at her son. Yeah, I did. I'm glad to have them in my life. I feel like I can just relax around them without any guards up, since they were bullied as well in the past, so we know similar experiences," Izuku said. After talking for a bit longer, they finished up cleaning and they went to bed for the night. Izuku went to the warehouse during the weekend. He wanted to have a conversation with All Might. After arriving on site, he got to training since All Might wouldn't be around for an hour or so. Izuku has been pushing his training and he has been getting results. His control of float has been getting better, but it still needed work. What he was mostly interested in was his float combat style, or that is what he is now calling it. He's been taking the lessons from Yue and making the fighting style more efficient with less wasteful moves. After about 1 hour of training, All Might arrived at the warehouse. Gran Torino wasn't in today since he went out on a patrol since he wanted to get used to the city. In the event something happened. All Might entered in his skinny form and sat down and waited for Izuku to stop. After about 10 minutes, Izuku stopped his training and cooled down before walking over to All Might. "How are you doing, my boy? You pulled first place and did an amazing job at declaring that you were here to the world," All Might stated. Izuku thanked him and then built up the courage to ask what he was going to ask his master. "All Might, I want to tell Lloyd and Salazar about me being your protege. I'm not planning to tell them about OFA currently. That would be a topic for a few years once we graduate or are close. But I would like them to know about you and then also bring them here to train sometimes with me," Izuku stated while looking All Might in the eye. This topic caught All Might off guard. Izuku then explained a bit more. "Sooner or later we will introduce me to the public as your protege, but that won't be until our last year of UA. I would like those 2 to know before then. We don't need to tell them about your form, but we would need to be more careful of when they are here and you are here and you're skinny for if we don't. That would be your decision on your form itself," Izuku stated. All Might then sat there in silence and thought for a few moments. They have been amazing friends for Izuku. Nezu had already predicted that Izuku would ask me this and warned me. He also did deep background checks and gave me access to all of their information as well. All Might thought. He then sat up straighter and looked his protege in the eyes. I'll show them my form. I'll be honest, Nezu predicted this outcome. He saw how close you three had become and he did deep background checks and research of them in preparation for this. As such, bring them tomorrow and we can talk about all of it. All Might stated. Izuku was happy that this conversation went so easy and was sad that he was so easy to predict. All Might laughed and said that no one could really hide anything in front of Nezu. Izuku accepted that and felt a bit better. Izuku then texted his two friends and asked if they were free all day Sunday, and they said yes and asked why. Izuku explained that he wanted to show them somewhere and have them meet someone that was important to him who would also like to meet them. As such, the day came to an end and Sunday arrived. It was about 9 a.m. when Izuku had brought the two friends to the warehouse. They asked why they were at a warehouse but got shocked at what they found inside. Welcome to my personal gym, Izuku said as he showed them it. They were dumbfounded. Are you rich in disguises as a poor person? Lloyd asked in a somewhat teasing and serious manner since everything in the warehouse was top-of-the-line equipment. No, Izuku said, embarrassed. Gran Torino then walked up and hit Izuku on the leg without being seen by the others, which scared them. You brats need to work on your situation awareness, Gran said. They asked Izuku if this was the person that he wanted them to meet. No, but you also need to meet him since he lives at this place now to help train me, Izuku stated. About 2 minutes later the door opened and the boys turned and saw All Might. They froze and then unfroze and then freaked out. Ahaha, I am here, All Might said. He then walked over and sat down at one of the chairs in the room. Good to meet you, two boys. My protege has talked a lot about you too, All Might said with the purpose of embarrassing Izuku. They then turned around and grabbed Izuku. Lloyd held his arms behind his back while Salazar held Izuku's head straight and looked him in the eyes. You had All Might as your mentor. Why didn't you get us autographs? He yelled. Izuku's sweat dropped. Really? That's what you are concerned about, is me not getting you autographs? Really? Izuku asked. They responded with a yes. Everyone just shook their heads. Okay, now we are past the first stage. Why is All Might your master? Lloyd asked. There's the real questions, Izuku said as he hit his fist into his palm once the question was asked. They then gave the boys a truthful answer with just leaving some details out of it. The boys accepted it for the most part. Okay, I'll be honest. I know you're hiding something more than his form, but we'll accept it and trust that one day in the future you will tell us. I feel like it's something large and massive that I don't really want to know anytime soon anyway, Salazar stated with Lloyd agreeing. Izuku admitted it. Yes, I'll admit it now. There is a larger secret that I don't want to tell you right now. It's not that I don't trust you guys. I think you would want to hear it closer to graduation when you are more prepared to hear it and understanding of the risks involved in it, Izuku stated. The two friends just hugged Izuku and told him that it was fine with them. They were glad that Izuku was willing to trust them with all of this and at least admit there was another one that he planned to tell in the future. Now, it's time to get training, boys. Since you all know about my form, you can come join Izuku to train here at this warehouse. You can use your quirks in here as long as you don't bring the building down. I will get anything that you guys need to train since you three have been good as a team, All Might said. Gran Torino just smirked at the fact that he now had two new people to beat up during training. They all felt cold shivers go down their spines at his smile. Lloyd and Salazar praised Izuku for introducing them to someone more sadistic than their own teacher. Gran Torino got them moving around and training. It was rough and grueling. Now we know why you are so strong. This training is brutal. They both groaned out at Izuku, who was not having any trouble at all. They were in shock. What? This is just a warm-up, Izuku said. They were done with him at this point. Warm up my ass. That was a full exercise. Dear God, what is your body made up of? Lloyd asked. Izuku just said willpower, determination, and spite. They all had blank looks on their faces as they cooled down as Izuku kept working. All Might walked over and asked them all what type of hero internship do they think they will be doing. They all said they wanted to do one together if they had the same requests that would allow it. We want to do some internships together to make our teamwork better. Overall, as individuals we are strong but still growing. Our teamwork in battle is needing work. We can make a fierce fighting team if we have enough combat practice together, which will allow us to overpower enemies that we normally couldn't, Salazar stated. Gran and All Might thought this was a very good idea, as silly considering the fact that they are the sole students of the hero course. They won't have others to rely on when they graduate unless they make connections. Normally there are 2 full classes to make connections with easily when they graduate, but now it's just them 3. Soon the weekend came to an end and the boys stayed the night at Izuku's house and slept on futons that Izuku had stored. Monday came around and the boys left early to return home to change and get ready for school. Izuku was able to change earlier and arrive at the school sooner than normal since he woke up early to see them off. After about 40 minutes the other 2 arrived at the school and came in to find Izuku doing some homework that they received from Friday. They also sat down and just got to working. They were surprised how their semester has been turning out so far since they are now in the middle of the semester and would be doing the internship starting next Monday if their requests got accepted. Aizawa soon came in and presented the packets of requests. Good job again. Each of you received the same number of requests, which isn't surprising at all due to there only being 3 of you. As such, you need to decide out of the 4,000 requests on who you would go with, Aizawa said as he gave them the packets. They started to look through the packets and found that they had gotten requested by pretty much the same heroes. They noticed that they had a few of the top heroes that requested them. They received a request from Ninja Hero, Edshot, and also from Fiber Hero, Best Genist. There were a few others like Endeavor, but none of them really liked him and didn't want to learn from him. They decided on going with Gang Orc as their first request to see if he would take them all on, and Best Genist as the second one. The reason they wanted Gang Orc instead of one of the higher ones is due to the fact that Gang Orc past was one of being discriminated against, and they knew he would know how they feel since he lived it. Second is the fact that Gang Orc has a large hero agency that focuses on team-based missions most of the time. He acts as an individual hero still a good portion of the time, but he does a lot of team-based missions. This would give the boys what they wanted in becoming individual heroes, but being able to function and work as a team quickly and efficiently with each other without any problem. As such, they presented their request to Aizawa. He looked confused since they all requested the same place. You all want to go to Gang Orc. Why? He asked, and they explained their reasons. Aizawa thought and agreed that it was a good reason. I'll take these to Nezu and we'll call him since most don't request the same agency to internship at. We'll make sure he okays it or declines it by end of today so we can let you know, Aizawa said as he left to Nezu's office. The boys just got back to work on their studies. Later that day their teacher had approached them. You're in luck. Gang Orca was surprised that all 3 of you wanted him. We explained the reason you gave us and he accepted it. He is willing to take all 3 of you on, Aizawa stated. They were all happy with that information. Soon the week passed and the boys just kept their training going. They had also informed Aizawa that Lloyd and Salazar were doing similar training to Izuku now and were training at the same location as him after school. Aizawa was honestly amazed with the 3 of them and the level of work they keep putting in, though he would never admit it to any of the boys. Aizawa made the changes to the school notes about the increase in their training out of school to ensure that the school didn't overwork them with physical training and focused more on application training with different simulation. Nezu had also provided All Might and Gran Torino all video footage of the 3 boys so both the school and they could keep track of the progress and be on the same level of what is going on in their schedules so no one overworked the boys. Soon the day of the internships was upon them. Aizawa had escorted them to the train station and told them to be good, but he didn't think he would have to worry about it. Remember, don't wear the suits unless told by your internship advisors. Also, don't use your quirks unless approved. Don't break any laws, problem children. I would like to actually have you 3 still in my class once you return. So don't ruin it or else Nezu will make me do many other things and I don't get to sleep during your homeroom, Aizawa said. Wow, he only cares about he's sleeping in truth, doesn't he? The boys thought because Aizawa put way more emotion in his words when he reached the sleeping portion of the conversation. They all told him they would be good little students and wouldn't cause any problems for him while they were gone. Indeed, we'll cause the problems when we return so you have more paperwork, Lloyd said, and Aizawa just gave a death glare. This caused them to run since the train had just arrived and they wanted to escape. You know he is going to give us so much homework when we get back, right? Izuku stated, and they all agreed with that assessment. It was worth it though to see his face when I said it. He was so annoyed with that comment, Lloyd stated. The other 2 just shook their heads at their friend's antics. Izuku always thought Lloyd was going to be the chaos bringer and he was right from the start. They all just sat down on train and waited for it to arrive at their stop. It would take roughly 1 hour for them to arrive at their destination, so they decided to get a bit of sleep and trade it off so they didn't miss the stop. And with that, I hope you all enjoy the series. Be sure to drink some water and go touch grass. And with that, I'll see you all in the next part. Take care and bye-bye.